Hi, I'm Kristen, and this video is my quilts and review for 2021 is what I'm calling it. So, as some of you know, I'm a relatively new quilter. So this 2021 is my first full calendar year of quilting. I started in like March, April-ish time, 2020. So I'm gonna go through all the quilts that I've made this year and let you know, if there's a video or blog post that you can see if you're interested in making it or following the instructions. And then because I didn't do it in 2020, I might add in a few at the end from my sort of first year of quilting, I guess, 2020. I personally like watching videos like this where people do they sometimes call them trunk shows. I'm not sure. Anyway, where they sort of pull out their old quilts and stuff. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you've been enjoying your holidays, and I'll see you in 2022. 2020, I'd gone pretty full on with the quilts, gotten super into it, and then also decided I was going to pretty much make everybody's Christmas gift that year. So once I got to January, I was in a bit of a slump, to be honest. I kept starting things, I kept thinking they weren't good enough. And then eventually I had to just challenge myself to make anything, which is where this denim improv quilt came from. It was basically a bunch of denim squares, remnants from somebody that I bought off eBay. I added some Moda scrap bag jelly roll strips and just started sewing and put it all together. It was super quick, and it did kind of get my sewing mojo back, as it were. So that was the first quilt of 2021 in February. The next quilts I made was kind of a set of three, I guess. I had bought a few ladies' unfinished patchwork off of eBay. These were all from one woman. So that she made these English paper piece hexie blocks, and then I just added to them and made quilt tops. I was making them pretty fast, I guess. They weren't anything super complicated, no patterns. I was just kind of trying to build something out of the blocks she already had. And these were all donated to Linus Quilts, a charity which has branches across the world, but there's also one here in the UK. And the representative of the charity here told me that they preferred them backed with fleece. I'm not sure if that's the same everywhere, but anyway, that's what she had requested. And I'd never done that before, so I challenged myself to do that. And I tried 3 different ways, so with batting, without batting, and then I did a couple different ways of binding it as well. And I tried free motion quilting and walking foot quilting. So I just kind of did a whole bunch of experimenting basically with fleece back quilts with these. So I do have a blog post all about that and what I found and kind of my favorites. And there's also a video about this as well. So I'll make sure the links are around here somewhere and in the description. Summer, I had quite a few quilt projects on the go. This was one of the quicker ones. This is my free rainbow raindrops quilt patterns. It's a sort of a large baby quilt pattern, and it's really just whole cloth with raw edge applique, and then I added some sort of cloud and rain quilting to it, I guess. So I do have the pattern for that on my blog, and I used an AccuQuilt die for the raindrops, but I also have a downloadable template if you don't have an AccuQuilt cutter. The next quilt I did was the one I'm calling the Beast. It's actually, the pattern is the Rojas quilt by Wisecraft Handmade. This is my queen size Quilt-as-you-go monster. I spent a lot of time researching Quilt-as-you-go techniques because I wanted to do something with no hand sewing, and I managed to find a way to do it. So I have a couple videos about making this quilt, and then I also have one about all of the different Quilt-as-you-go techniques I tried. So I'll link to everything below or in cards above, and all of that. Next quilt I did was my own pattern. It gets another free pattern on the blog. It's called X Marks the Scrap. And it starts with basically using up lots of skinny strips and leftover scraps sewed onto adding machine tape. And then I have a super easy beginner foundation paper piece block where you can add those strips and make them into these X's to mark your scrap, essentially. I tried all sorts of different ruler work for each square for this quilt because I'd just gotten a ruler foot for my machine. And then this is also the first quilt where I did like a low volume binding, one that sort of matched the background, and I really liked it. So I'm kind of getting into doing that now. And this quilt gets used so often. This is the one I have on my chair in my sewing room stroke office. So it's the one I cuddle up with when I'm doing stuff on my computer. This quilt was so much fun to make. This was for a friend's wedding. I wanted to make something modern because I didn't know if her and her husband or husband-to-be were into quilts. So I got a Ruby Star scrap pack. It isn't like the official one that Ruby Star Society buys. It was like from a local quilt shop. They just sort of compiled, I guess, their offcuts into a little scrap bag. So I bought that and started with that and just added some low volume remnants. So I have a whole video about how I made that quilt and a tutorial on the blog, which I'll link to. But the whole thing, including the quilting, took about a week. So it was a pretty fast make. And I just really liked how it turned out. So I really like that technique and how easy it was and kind of how impactful it can look as well. I'm watching the channel for a while. You might have caught a glimpse of this one in my video about the micro stitch basting gun. Basically, this was a Christmas gift for my sister, so I didn't want to make a whole video about it. But I didn't think there was much risk that she was going to watch, she's not a quilter, that she was going to watch a video about a basting gun. So I took a chance and let there be a little shot of it in there. But otherwise, there isn't a video on it. But the hexagon blocks are a foundation paper piece block that I drafted in EQ8, and I might use that somewhere else and share that with you guys. And then I just added different fabrics that I knew she would like. If you've seen my coaster video, the Quilt-as-you-go coasters, which were also for my sister, she's a fan of the color gray and not many other colors. So I found some fabrics that went with her sofa and her cushions, and kind of was led by her design style for that one. It was the last quilt I made in 2021. So here's a few of my favorites from 2020. This one was called the Scrappy Strips quilt, I guess. It's probably the first one I did that kind of really reflected my my style, I guess. I liked the bright colors. It was just some remnants and scraps and strips sewn together. I don't know the technical term, but like in the same way that you would if you were joining binding strips, you know, on the diagonal. But just at different widths. And again, no pattern. I was just doing my own thing. And I ended up testing out loads of different free motion quilting designs. I was getting into trying to do that. So I was really happy with how that quilt came out. This was one I made for my parents-in-law for Christmas in 2020. I think it's called Disappearing 9 patch. And I used, I think, a couple charm packs and then some low volume remnants and some different materials for the back. I used a tutorial from Teresa Down Under, which is linked to in the blog post about this, for the block itself, but then the rest of it I just sort of built up. You'll kind of notice a theme here. I build a lot of my quilts up myself to a kind of rough throw size. So I have, with the X Marks the Scrap and the Rainbow Raindrops quilt, started to do things to more of a specific size, but yeah, that's kind of my style, is let's just see how big it ends up. This was my absolute favorite quilt that I made in 2020, so the first year that I was quilting. It's a sailboat quilt, I guess. I didn't do a video about it at the time, but I've since written it up in a blog post on Scrap Fabric Love, which I will link to. But essentially, I started with a foundation paper beast sailboat block, and I've got the link to where I bought that from in the blog. And then I just sort of built around that to make the sky and the water. I bought like a remnants pack from somebody, again on eBay. This is what I do, guys. And there was some wave fabric and some bird fabric, and so that looked kind of like sky. And my friend lives by the beach, so I decided to make this for her. And then the back was, I think I started with the fat quarter in the middle and then just built around it kind of roughly log cabin-ish style. And the back of that quilt was the first thing that I made that my sister went, "Oh, that's really nice." Because I guess it looked more modern than some of the stuff I'd been making before. But anyway, I really, really liked how this one turned out. And again, this one was simple and quick to do. There's plenty of quilts I've made that I've really labored over, and often it's the ones that actually are fairly easy to put together that come out looking visually the best to me. So I think that's kind of a good lesson for all of us kind of confident beginners who think we have to try something super complicated in order to make something nice. That's just not always the case. If you've been following along with me this year, thanks so much for your support. And if you're a new subscriber, welcome. And I look forward to sharing lots more quilts with you all in 2022.